As the world shifts towards a more sustainable future, the demand for solar energy solutions has never been higher. However, the rapid growth of the industry has also generated an increase of corrupt service providers prioritizing profits over people and distributing subpar installations that put consumers at risk. So these providers often engage in fraudulent practices, compromising the safety and the efficiency of solar installations. So to explore the topic of solar scams, we are now going to be joined virtually by Mains-Sheard, CEO of Versofy Solar. Ross, good morning, and thank you for joining us on the SABC at this hour.
Good morning, and thank you for having me.
Ross, perhaps you can tell us about the work of solar energy and really at this point, the world over, why it is important in people's lives.
So I think solar technology has been around for a long time. We have started to see a massive boom in recent years, not only in South Africa, but around the world. And I think that's just given to the fact that the price point of the technology has come down, conversely to the price point of the grid and fossil fuel generated electricity. So the adoption of solar worldwide has been massive, and it really, really does work. And in a country such as South Africa, where, the sun shines about 300 odd days a year, it's a great alternative source of renewable, sustainable, clean energy generation. And we expect the adoption to continue long into the future.
Thank you for that context, because the issue of safety and performance then also comes to the fore. And perhaps you could speak to, how solar or practitioners rather installing solar energy, devices can adhere to these safety and performance measures of these installations, but also the kind of training and expertise that's needed in designing and installing the systems effectively.
Yeah, sure. So I think with, the stage 6 load shedding that we experienced last year, there was a lot of opportunity in the solar industry, just given the massive demand. And with opportunity comes opportunists, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And people, every man and his dog is now a solar installer and is installing solar without the necessary qualifications, the precautions and the legalities and regulations needed. We've seen that on the rise, and really this is a public service announcement to just educate and make people aware that there are standards, there are regulations, there are requirements that do need to be adhered to, and we urge everybody to do their research before installing solar and making sure that they are using reputable installers.
Russ, let's speak to that. We understand that obviously now choosing a responsible solar provider is crucial on the back of what you've just echoed. What are the registration requirements, the qualifications and the experiences needed for one who wants to go that route, install solar, just obviously ensuring that they do a clear and clean job with solar energy installations?
Well, first and foremost, solar system it's generating energy and it is plugging into your distribution board, your DB board in the home. So it follows very strict and clear guidelines as set out by what electricians follow in the same vein. A supplementary COC needs to be attached to the original COC of the house for the solar system. So it's imperative that that is provided and included in any installation. And the rules that need to be followed and the regulations that need to be followed are a fewfold. One, the rules and regulations at a SANS level, at a governmental level, as well as the OEM, the inverter brand, and their manuals. You need to follow those quite strictly to ensure a safe and reliable installation. And then the things such as which components are being used, are they the correct rated components, are they tier 1 components, et cetera, et cetera. These are all things that are very important to take into consideration and to question your solar installer as to what they are going to be using. And you have every right to do that. So the vetting process is the same as any other service provider, I suppose. We urge people to go and just do a quick Google search of the company that you intend to use, see if there's reviews, ratings, ask them for referrals, ask them to see other examples of the work that they have done. And you can quite quickly see the legit from the non-legit, because the people who are legit have nothing to hide and are generally welcoming of these type of questions, because it is a big investment, and not only that, it is something that does need to be installed safely, not only for you and your family, but for your neighbors as well.
No, absolutely. And thank you for clarifying that. I think looking at the bigger picture, perhaps on the issue of policy and regulatory frameworks, what changes need to occur on that front for us to fully unlock the potential of solar energy in South Africa, at least from your vantage point?
I think there's a few regulatory changes that are needed and are required, given where it sits in the home and what role solar plays in the home, as well as how it interacts with the municipal grid. So we are very for more firm regulations, more governing bodies being formed to not only educate installers and keep them up to date on the latest and greatest training and way of doing things, but also to ensure that it stimulates the economy from a training perspective. And that's one of the beauties of solar is you can't outsource it necessarily. The person needs to be at. So it's a great opportunity to create jobs at a local level. And yeah, we are all for more regulation, tighter restrictions, because it's imperative that these things are installed safely, not only for you and your family, as I said, but also for the industry as a whole. There's a few bad apples that have given the industry a bad name, and it's a professional service that is being provided, and people need to respect that these are professionals who should be installing these systems and therefore have gone through the required training, et cetera, and made that investment and gained that experience, which is invaluable to the economy.
Well, Ross, speaking about training and expertise and professionals is obviously are responsible for implementing this. I mean, governments also come on board, offering tax incentives, rather, for solar panel installations. Talk to us about those benefits as well.
Yeah, so there was an incentive in the last tax year that unfortunately was taken away in the latest budget for whatever reason. There's a few question marks as to why, but yes, it is promising that government have acknowledged that we are in an energy crisis and that this is a very, very viable solution to help aid that. So from the training perspective, I think we are starting to see a lot more academies popping up, which we are pro, obviously. And I'd like to start to see it at university and technicon level, as well as dedicated courses to this industry. So there's obviously a lot of parallels with electricians and wireman's licenses, et cetera. It is electricity at the end of the day, but there are also a lot of nuances around generation of electricity as opposed to just distribution of it. So I think government has a large role to play, but they have acknowledged the necessity in this industry, and it has been promising to see that they have been involved somewhat, and it'll be interesting to see how the new parliamentary makeup takes this into consideration. We're eagerly awaiting, and all of the political parties' manifestos did talk to the energy crisis that we're in. So the proof is in the pudding. Let's wait and see.
And that clock is ticking by. Perhaps on that point, we could speak to how various stakeholders along the value chain can also collaborate to help drive and further ensure a more smooth adoption within the industry at large, from your vantage point.
Yeah, exactly right. I think everybody's got their place to play. Again, it's a hugely booming industry. Solar penetration in South Africa is at 0.7%. So there's a lot of room for growth, and there's a lot of room for adoption still to come. And just through that lens and through that mindset, collaboration is important across the value chain. We need to be working together cohesively in order to have this smooth, rapid transition of renewables, which this country and the world at whole needs. So I do think there will start to be more lobbying, more collaboration, more meets and conferences. And I was fortunate enough to be in Germany for one of the biggest solar shows in the world, and the one that happened in Joburg is not not quite at the same scale, but not far off, to be honest. So the industry is taking notice and is investing in the space to educate one another and collaborate with one another. So I think we're well on the way to that stakeholder engagement, which is great to see.
Which obviously also drives competition at large. And I wonder if you could speak to the costs associated thus far. Beyond those tax incentives that we spoke about, you could also speak to the price range, if we're going to be doing research and comparing the different offerings as well. I mean, how do they fare given the watts of solar panel usage that is required for different homes? Perhaps the savings in the long run as well.
Yeah, sure. So the costs are coming down. If you just Google solar, cost of solar, and have a look at the graphs that pop up, it's hugely encouraging to see. And that's driven by two main forces, really. Economies of scale, as people have adopted this technology, there's more investment going into the space, and therefore prices get driven further down. As well as advances in technology and efficiencies of solar panels. It wasn't long ago that the biggest solar panel from a wattage perspective was in the 200s, 300s. You're now seeing 600, 700 watt panels coming out, following a not a dissimilar trend to Moore's law at a technology level, but very, very similar there. And solar is already cheaper than any other form of electricity generation. However, where it is downstream in the market now, we only are one or two kind of increases away from getting grid parity at an ESCOM or municipality level with a solar subscription, or such as the Versofy Solar. And once that happens, not only are you seeing the long-term savings, but you're actually seeing immediate savings, whereby a home with solar, their blended cost of electricity will be cheaper than a home without solar. And you obviously get the added benefit of security and battery backup and the feel-good factor in terms of a clean, renewable, sustainable generation source of electricity. So I think it's inevitable that this trend will continue, because it will become economically viable, or more economically viable than the incumbents and the alternatives. And the long-term cost saving is something that in this economy and where we've come from as a country and as a nation, I think people are crying out for. So it is a nice silver lining that we are seeing in the space.
Ross, thank you for breaking that down and helping us, understand further. We're going to leave the conversation there for now. CEO of Versofy Solar, Ross Mains-Sheard, talking to us about a guide to spotting solar scams, choosing reliable providers, just also unpacking price ranges and the offerings with regards to solar panel installations.